everyone, today we're reading Chapter 52, Mom, Did You Vote? We're heading back in time, just a bit. It is 1917, and some women are marching in front of the White House. They carry a big banner that says, 20 million American women are not self-governed. In Europe, American soldiers are fighting for democracy. These women feel they should fight for it at home. Day after day, for months, the women march in front of the president's house. They are peaceful and respectful, but persistent. Some people don't like it. They say the suffragists shouldn't annoy the president during wartime. The police tell the women to leave. Has the law been changed? Asks Alice Paul, leader of the group. No, says the police officer, but you must stop. We have consulted our lawyers, says Alice Paul. We have a legal right to picket. The next day, two women, Lucy Burns and Catherine Morey, are arrested. Other arrests soon follow. On the 4th of July, a congressman speaks to a large crowd gathered behind the White House. Governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed, he says. Police keep the crowd orderly and protect the congressman's right to free speech. In front of the White House, a group of 13 women silently holds a banner with those very same words from the Declaration of Independence. Some are young women, some white-haired grandmothers. All are arrested. The women are taken to court and fined. They refuse to pay their fines. To do so would mean to admit they are guilty. They do not believe themselves guilty of any crime. The police take them to jail. More women are arrested. Anne Martin speaks out in court. As long as the government and the representatives of the government prefer to send women to jail on petty and technical charges, we will go to jail. Persecution has always advanced the cause of justice. The right of American women to work for democracy must be maintained. More women go to jail. They are separated from each other. Prison conditions are awful. For 17 days, Ada Davenport Kendall is given nothing to eat but bread and water. Some women are held in solitary confinement. Some who go on hunger strikes are held down and fed against their will. Anne Martin, Lucy Burns, and Elizabeth McShane are force-fed. Burns is bruised on her lips and face. McShane throws up. Now the women have become interested in prison reform as well as women's suffrage. One woman writes that it is necessary to make a stand for the ordinary rights of human beings for all the inmates. In the White House, Woodrow Wilson has other concerns. He is fighting a war, that war for democracy. Wilson says that he isn't against women's suffrage. In fact, he is for it. But, like many men, he thinks that most other issues are more important. The women keep marching. All kinds of women, rich and poor. Could it be that they understand democracy in a way the president doesn't? So this picture over here, in 1917, in front of the White House, women marched for the right to vote. Many were arrested and put in jail. Up here, many Americans, men and women, don't bother to be active citizens. Many don't vote. The whole point of a democracy is that it gives everyone power. Those who don't vote give up their power. This picture, Lucy Burns served more time in jail than any other American suffragist for her protests for women's rights. And finally this one, a pin shows the wearer's support for women's suffrage. Mrs. John Rogers, Jr. is arrested. She is a descendant of Roger Sherman, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Like her plain-speaking ancestor, Mrs. Rogers says what she thinks. She tells the judge, "We are not guilty of any offense. We know full well that we stand here because the President of the United States refuses to give liberty to American women. We believe, Your Honor, that the wrong persons are before the bar in this court. We believe the President is the guilty one, and that we are innocent." Now, isn't that what America is all about? The right of every citizen to speak out, even against the President? Mrs. Rogers' cause is just, but her comments aren't quite fair. It is Congress that is holding things up, not Woodrow Wilson. But the president hasn't helped. Finally, he does. He urges Congress to pass the 19th Amendment. The proposed amendment says, "The right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex." It is known as the Susan B. Anthony Amendment. This battle for women's suffrage is not something new. Susan Anthony and her friend Elizabeth Cady Stanton began the fight in the mid-19th century. They spent their lives fighting for women's rights. So did Carrie Chapman Catt, the head of the National American Women's Suffrage Association. Many men and women have worked hard for this cause. Most are people you have never even heard about. In Tennessee, Harry Byrne was 24 and the youngest representative in the legislature when he got a letter from his mother. "Don't forget to be a good boy," wrote his mother, "and help Mrs. Catt put the rat in ratification." The Tennessee legislators were trying to decide whether to approve the 19th Amendment or not. Half were for women's suffrage, half were not. Byrne held the deciding vote. He followed his mother's advice. It was 1919, and Tennessee was the last state needed to ratify. The following year, 1920, America's women finally went to the polls. In this picture over here, young and old, rich and poor, women of all kinds came together to support the cause of women's suffrage. Over here, in 1920, the 19th Amendment guaranteed all American women the right to vote. Finally, down here, female takeover. In 1920, the women of Yoncalla, Oregon, got together and made plans to take over the town government. They didn't tell anyone, not even their brothers or husbands. Men outnumbered women 2-to-1 in this community of fewer than 350 persons. But the women all voted. According to the Literary Digest, they were stirred by the alleged inefficiency of the municipal officials and swept every masculine officeholder out of his job. When they went to the polls, they elected an all-women slate of town officials. Mrs. Mary Burt became the new mayor. The out-of-a-job former mayor, a Mr. Laswell, was said to be much surprised.